The trap Logan lived alone on the edge of a quiet planet where trees whispered in the wind and stars filled the sky at night. His small wooden cabin stood between thick forests and cold hills. He had no neighbors and no visitors. Years ago, he had left the busy colonies behind because noise tired him and people always brought questions. Here in this wild place he found peace. Here he lived with only the sound of crackling fire and the hum of old machines. He spent his days hunting, gathering, and repairing tools. Around his cabin he had built traps not to harm, but to stop creatures from entering his land. Strange beasts roamed these forests, some with teeth like knives and others with eyes that saw through walls. His traps were silent and quick, using wires and old tech from his days as a scout. One cold evening, as the sun fell behind the mountains, Logan sat near the fire chewing dried meat and checking his data pad. Suddenly a loud snap echoed from the eastern side of his field. He stood at once, grabbed his coat and rifle, and stepped into the cold wind. The air smelled of dust and pine. His boots crunched on frozen ground as he moved through the trees toward the sound he expected to find a broken branch or maybe a wild crawler tangled in his wires. But what he saw made him stop in his tracks. Hanging upside down from the snare was not an animal. It was something else, a girl, not human. Her skin shimmered like silver leaves under moonlight. Her limbs were long and thin, and her eyes were wide and glowing blue. She wore no armor, no shoes, just a torn suit made of soft, strange fabric. Her face was bruised and her arms scratched. She twisted and kicked, trying to break free. Her breathing was fast and shallow, like a bird trapped in a cage. Logan raised his rifle, then lowered it. She looked at him with pure terror. He stepped closer, and she screamed, not with her mouth, but with her mind. A sharp cry filled his head like broken glass. He fell to one knee, his skull pounding. She stared at him, her hands glowing faintly. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small cube. He pressed it, and it let out a soft pulse that dulled her scream. Not fully, but enough for him to think again. "I am not your enemy," he whispered, hoping she could feel his thoughts. She did not understand. Her eyes stayed wide, her body stiff. Logan sighed and moved to the trap. He cut the rope and caught her before she hit the ground. She struggled, but she was too weak to fight. Her knee was twisted and bleeding. He lifted her gently and carried her back to the cabin. She did not speak. She only stared at the stars above, like she wanted to fly away from this place. Inside the cabin, he placed her on a soft cot near the fire. She tried to crawl away, but her leg gave out. Logan showed her his hands empty and calm. He brought clean cloth water and a small bowl of dried berries. She watched everything with caution, her back against the wall. She thought he might eat her, but he only cleaned her wounds and wrapped her leg. She winced at his touch but did not scream again. He worked in silence, moving with slow hands. She did not eat at first. She waited until he stepped outside, then reached for the food. She sniffed it, tasted it, then ate fast and careful, like she feared it would vanish. Night passed slowly. Logan slept with one eye open, his rifle near his bed. The girl did not sleep. She sat still, her arms hugging her knees, her eyes fixed on the fire. When morning came, he found her near the door holding a piece of old tech, a broken translator. She looked at him and said one word, "Run." Her voice was soft and strange, but he understood. He shook his head. "You are safe here." She did not believe him. Days passed like this. Each day he left food and water and stayed quiet. She limped less and began to explore the cabin at night. She found his books, his maps, his old photos. One photo showed Logan standing beside a young boy, both smiling, both in uniforms. She held that photo for a long time before placing it back where she found it. On the fourth night, she sat by the fire and pointed at herself. "Aya," she said. Logan nodded and pointed at himself. Logan, a small step. She touched her chest again and said another word he did not know. Then she pointed to the sky and drew a shape in the air. A ship, a planet, a place far away from here. She was lost or maybe hiding. Logan fixed the broken translator and gave it to her. It worked only partly, but enough for her to share small things. She had escaped from something dark, from a place that cut and tested and caged her. She had run into the forest hoping to find peace. Instead, she found his trap. Now she waited for death. He gave her fire and food and safety. That was not what she expected. She did not know if she could trust him, but for the first time she felt something different in her chest. A quiet thing. A warmth. She had no word for it in her tongue. Hope, fear, and firelight. The wind outside the cabin howled through the trees like a lost voice. Inside the cabin, warmth from the fire filled the wooden walls. Logan sat on a stool fixing an old circuit board, while Aya sat on the floor near the door, watching him with cautious eyes. Her leg was healing, but she still limped with every step. The translator cube lay between them, blinking with soft green light. For days they had lived like this, both silent, both unsure of what the next moment might bring. Logan had stopped asking questions. He let her move at her own pace. Each day he placed food and water near the fire and left her alone. Sometimes she ate, sometimes she didn't. Sometimes she stared at him for hours without saying a word. She still feared him, but something was changing that night. Logan placed a blanket near her side and sat across the room, sharpening a tool. The fire flickered between them, throwing shadows on the wooden walls. Aya reached for the translator and held it in her palm. She looked at him and spoke slowly. "Why help me?" Logan looked up, surprised by her voice. He lowered his tool and leaned forward. "You were hurt," he answered softly. "You needed care." Her eyes narrowed as if his answer made no sense. She shook her head. "I am alien. I am stranger. I am hunted." Logan nodded slowly. "You are alive. That is enough." Aya did not respond. Her eyes moved toward the window where stars blinked behind the glass. She took a long breath, her chest rising slowly. "They will find me soon." Who? Logan asked. Her fingers tapped the floor, her eyes distant. "Ones who made me bleed." Logan leaned back, resting against the wall. He had seen fear before in the eyes of soldiers, in the faces of refugees running from war. But Aya's fear was deeper, older, like she had carried it for many years. "They kept me in glass," she said, "like an animal. No name, no choice, no sky." Her voice cracked like breaking stone. She did not cry, but her hands trembled slightly. "I escaped through fire, through pain. They follow, always follow." Logan listened without speaking. He did not know her world or her past, but he understood pain and loss. He had lost friends in battle, lost his brother to disease, lost his place in the crowded colonies. This planet was his way to start again. "You are safe here," he said again. "No one will harm you." Aya looked at him with doubt. "You are human. They say humans destroy, take, break things." Logan let out a slow breath and nodded. "Some do, not all." She tilted her head, curious. "Are you different?" Logan gave a small, tired smile. "I hope so." Silence returned, but it felt lighter now, less cold. The next morning, Aya stood near the cabin window, staring at the trees. Logan offered her warm broth, and she took it with both hands. She sipped slowly and looked around the cabin, noticing things she had ignored before. Maps with hand-drawn lines, machines, half-built shelves filled with old books and faded photos. She pointed at one photo. "Your family." "My brother," Logan said quietly. "Gone now long ago." "Sorry." Logan nodded his thanks. Aya moved to the corner and found a broken screen with a faded interface. She pressed buttons, touched wires, and made it light up. Logan watched with surprise. "You know tech." She gave a short nod. "They taught me while they studied me. I learned fast. I watched everything." Logan handed her another broken device, a small cum scanner can. "You fixed this." Aya took it, examined it, and began working without fear. Her hands moved with skill, her eyes focused. Hours passed when the scanner buzzed back to life. Logan smiled for the first time in many days. "Impressive." Aya gave a small look, not quite a smile, but close. Trust began to grow like a seed in dry soil at night. She sat beside the fire instead of hiding near the door. Logan shared stories about old Earth, about the cities that reached the sky and the oceans that never slept. He spoke of the wars and the peace, the mistakes and the hope. Aya listened closely, her eyes wide. She shared her own stories in pieces, broken words painted pictures of her world with 3 moons and skies that changed colors with emotion. Her people, once peaceful, had turned cold, hunting their own for science and control. I was born different. She said, not like others. They feared me. They locked me away. Logan touched his chest and earth. We also feared difference. Once we fought over skin, over belief, over power. Did you change? We try every day. Aya looked into the fire, her face soft and thoughtful. Maybe I came to right place. That night thunder rolled over the mountains, and the cabin shook gently. Rain tapped on the roof like fingers. Logan and Aya sat in silence watching flames dance. Then a low rumble passed above them. Aya's body froze, her eyes wide with panic. They are near. Logan grabbed his scanner and checked the sky. A ship. Fast. Low. No signal. He turned off all power in the cabin and activated a jamming field that covered their location. He turned to Aya. You must hide now. She shook her head, breathing hard. They will burn everything. They will find me. Not if I stop them. Logan said, his voice steady. Stared at him, then pointed at his chest. Why do you protect me? Logan paused. Because no one protected my brother when he needed it. I will not make that mistake again. Aya moved to the cellar hatch and climbed down into the dark. Logan covered it with rugs and returned to the door, his rifle in hand. Outside, lightning flashed and shadows moved between trees. The night had teeth, but Logan stood firm inside the cellar. Aya waited, hands clenched, heart racing. For the first time in her life, she was not alone. Threads of trust. The storm passed with the rising sun, leaving behind wet leaves, broken branches, and silence that stretched over the hills like a blanket. Logan stepped outside, scanning the area with sharp eyes. His rifle rested on his shoulder, and his boots sank slightly in the soft mud. No sign of movement, no sound of drones, no scent of engines. Still his mind stayed alert, his breath steady, his heart heavy with worry. He moved around the cabin, checking each corner, each shadow. He knew how trackers worked. They never attacked at once. First they observed, then they closed in. The ship from last night had vanished into the clouds, but Logan knew it was not gone. Not yet. Inside the cellar, Aya sat in the dark, her knees to her chest, her fingers gripping the edge of a toolbox. She had not spoken during the night, not even once. Every small sound above had sent a jolt through her body, like thunder striking the same place again and again. Her mind raced with images of cold metal rooms, glowing red eyes, and voices speaking numbers like she was nothing more than data. She felt weak, but not from fear. From memory, when Logan opened the hatch and looked down, his face showed no panic, only calm. He offered his hand and helped her up into the morning light. Her legs trembled, but she stood without help. They searched the sky together, standing near the cabin door. Wind pushed through the trees, but no other sign came. Aya turned to him, her voice quiet but clear. They saw me. Logan nodded. I know. They will come back with more. Then we prepare. Aya blinked slowly, her thoughts heavy. You stay for me? Yes. Why? Because I said I would. Aya walked back inside, her steps slow, her thoughts tangled like vines. Logan followed and sat across from her near the fire. He reached into a small box and took out a second device, one that still worked. You can use this to call for help. She looked at it without reaching. I have no one, no family, none that would come for me. Logan placed the device on the table between them. Then we survived together. Aya said nothing, but her hand touched the gently, her fingers brushing the buttons like they were alive. Later that day, Logan showed her how his traps worked. They walked through the edge of the forest where wires hung between trees and small metal discs hid under leaves. He explained each part slowly, with careful movements and simple words. She listened closely, her eyes focused, her mind sharp. She pointed to one of the traps and offered a better design. A small adjustment in the pressure sensor to trigger faster, without false signals. Logan raised his brow and smiled. Smart. Aya gave a small nod. I watched them build cages. I remember every detail. Her words carried weight. Logan crouched near a tree and started setting up a new trap with her help. Side by side they worked as the sun moved across the sky. Birds flew overhead and distant thunder echoed from beyond the mountains. That evening Aya cooked for the first time. Logan had shown her basic tools, and she used roots and herbs from the forest mixed with dried meat from his supplies. The results smelled strange but warm. They ate in silence, but the silence no longer felt cold. After dinner, Logan brought out an old data slate filled with old Earth music. He placed it near the fire, and soft tunes filled the cabin. Aya tilted her head as if listening to something new and unknown. What is this music from my home from long ago? She closed her eyes and let the sounds wash over her. For the first time, her face relaxed, her body at peace. Logan watched her without speaking. Later, they sat together with the translator between them. Aya spoke about her early years in a cold white lab where walls blinked and voices never spoke kindly. She had no name back then, only a number. But she had escaped during a power failure when the systems broke and lights went dark. She had run for days through ruined cities and empty fields until she found this forest. The trap had caught her just as she thought she might be free. Logan told her about Earth, the wars, the machines, the loss. He told her how people once reached for the stars, but forgot each other along the way. He told her why he left the colonies, why he came to this place. To find peace, to find silence, to find himself again. Aya looked at him not with fear, but with something softer. You lost much, yes. Now you protect me, yes. Why? Does that matter? Because life must mean more than just survival. Aya looked at the fire, her eyes full of thoughts. Maybe you are not like others. Maybe you are not like others either. For the first time she smiled, not a full smile, but enough to change the air between them. The next day they worked on the cabin together, reinforcing the walls, adding solar panels, fixing sensors. Aya taught Logan how to use alien materials he had scavenged long ago. In return, Logan taught her how to track footsteps, how to hide scent, how to move without sound. Together, they were stronger. When night came, they sat again by the fire, watching stars through the small window. Aya held the cum device in her handi. Want to send a message, not to the ones who chase me, but to the ones who might still care you. Think someone will answer. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someone must hear. Logan nodded. Then we send it. They worked together, tuning the signal, adjusting the frequency, writing the message in both languages. A short call for peace, for understanding, for safety. A message sent not in fear, but in hope. When the signal left the cabin, it carried more than words. It carried a story, a plea, a bond formed not by blood, but by trust. Aya looked at Logan one last time before sleep. Thank you for what? For being the first one who saw me, not as a threat, not as a weapon, not as a number, but as a person. Logan gave a small nod. You are welcome. The fire crackled softly as stars moved slowly across the sky, and, for the first time in years, both of them felt something rare, belonging. The hunt begins. The morning came with a strange silence. No birds sang, no wind moved through the trees, no insects whispered from under leaves. Logan stood outside the cabin, scanning the forest with calm eyes. He felt something in the air, a weight that did not belong. Behind him, Aya walked slowly, carrying a tool she had been fixing since last night. Logan turned to her and spoke in a low voice. Today feels different. Aya looked around, her head turning slowly. They are near. I feel them. She knelt and placed her hand on the ground, her eyes closed, her skin glowing faintly with soft blue light. Her breath slowed, her fingers twitched, her mind reached out beyond the trees, beyond the hills. They watched from sky, from trees, from shadows. Logan walked to the side of the cabin and opened a hidden case, filled with weapons and tools from his old scout days. He handed Aya a small pulse stick and showed her how to trigger it. If they come, this will help stun them, but not kill. She nodded without fear. We must fight or run. They will not let you live if they find you, he said slowly, and they will not spare any other. Then we fight together. The sun rose higher, casting long beams of light through the trees. Logan moved fast, setting traps, loading weapons, sealing doors. Aya helped silently, her hands steady, her eyes focused. No words were needed now. They understood each other through action, through purpose, through trust built from fear and firelight. By noon, the sensors started blinking. Something moved in the distance, something large and fast without sound. Logan checked the scanner and saw multiple heat signatures moving through the forest from 3 sides. They are closing in fast. Aya activated the jamming field to block signals from reaching the sky. She placed decoys near the field's edge to confuse trackers. Logan climbed a tree and watched through a scope. He saw them, tall dark figures with metal armor, long rifles, and masks that hid their faces. They moved in perfect lines with no sound, no pause. Drones floated above them, scanning every branch, every footprint, every breath. Logan climbed down and whispered, "We have minutes, no more." Aya looked at him with calm eyes. "Then let us begin." First trap caught one of the drones, ripping it from the air with a burst of fire. The second trap triggered a flash bomb that blinded the nearest group. Logan fired his rifle, hitting one of the armored figures in the leg. It fell but did not scream. Aya moved like wind, using shadows and silence. She threw the pulse stick near a group of soldiers and watched them fall as blue light burst across their suits. She grabbed one of their weapons and ran back toward the cabin. Logan set off a line of small charges to block the rear path, then ducked behind a wall as bullets pierced the trees. The battle was fast, brutal, without mercy. Aya took a hit to her shoulder but did not stop. Her blood shimmered like liquid stars, but she kept moving, kept fighting. Logan saw her fall behind a rock, clutching her arm. He ran to her side, pulled her behind a tree, and covered her with his coat. "You are bleeding. Body can heal, just slow. I need time." Logan took her weapon and stood guard, his eyes cold and sharp. When 2 soldiers moved near, he shot both with clean strikes. He had not fired a weapon in years, but his hands remembered. Aya closed her eyes, focusing her energy into her wound. Her skin glowed again, and the bleeding slowed. She sat up and whispered, "They sent only one group. Others will come soon. We must finish this now." Logan checked the scanner again. Only one signature remained, moving fast, circling Thema, hunter-class drone. Knew its type from old reports: fast, silent, deadly, with full tracking systems and heavy firepower. It came through the trees like smoke, barely touching the ground. Its body shimmered like glass, and its weapon arm charged with red energy. Logan fired, but the bullets bounced off. The drone turned and shot a beam that burned through part of the cabin wall. Wood cracked and sparks flew. Aya stood with weak legs, her hands glowing brighter than before. "I can stop it, but not without risk." Logan grabbed her shoulder. "No, we fight together." She stepped forward, her hands raised, her eyes locked on the drone. The air around her shimmered like heat. The drone charged its weapon again, but before it could fire, Aya unleashed a wave of blue light from her chest. The ground shook, the trees bent, the drone froze in place, then cracked like glass under pressure. Explosion sent both of them flying. Logan hit the ground hard, his head spinning, his breath shallow. He crawled toward Aya, who lay still near the fire pit. He touched her arm as she opened her eyes slowly, still alive. He smiled, a tired smile. "You did it." She coughed once, then laughed softly. "You helped." Logan pulled her up and carried her into the cabin, what was left of it. Smoke rose from the roof. Parts of the wall were gone, tools scattered across the floor. He placed her on the cot and wrapped her shoulder again. "You need rest." "We both do." That night, no more drones came, no soldiers, no ships, only wind and stars and broken silence. Logan sat beside Aya, who stared at the ceiling. "Thank you," she whispered. He looked at her. "For what?" "For not running." "Gave my word." Aya nodded. "And now you have a story to tell." "Maybe we both do." She closed her eyes and let sleep take her outside. The wind carried ashes into the trees, but inside the cabin something new remained. Not fear, not pain, but survival, and something even stronger, hope. Not what she expected. Sun rose slowly above the quiet hills, casting golden light over broken trees and burnt soil. Smoke drifted from the damaged cabin, where silence now held its breath. Inside, Logan sat near the fire pit, holding a warm mug in his hands. His coat was torn, his arm wrapped in cloth, and his face tired, but calm. Beside him, Aya slept on the cot, her chest rising slow and steady, her body wrapped in soft fabric. Her wounds had begun to close, her skin no longer shining with pain. She looked peaceful in sleep, something rare, something hard to find. Logan stood and walked to the window. He looked out over the field where broken parts of drones still lay. The forest beyond had returned to its still rhythm. Birds chirped once more, leaves danced in the soft wind, and the sky above held no threat. A full day had passed since the last attack. No new ships had come, no signals had been picked up. The scanner showed nothing in the air, nothing on the ground. For now the danger had passed. Aya woke slowly, her eyes opening with care, her breath quiet, her gaze soft. She sat up with effort and looked around the room. She saw the repairs. Logan had already begun the tools. He had gathered the care he had shown. Without saying a word, "You stayed again." Logan looked back and gave a nod. "I told you I would." Aya stood and stretched her arms, still sore, but working. She walked toward him and pointed at the scanner. "Anything, clear skies." She placed her hand over the device, her fingers glowing faintly. "I want to send one more signal. To who? To anyone listening, to someone who might care, to someone who wants peace." Logan handed her the control without question. She tuned the signal, adjusted the range, and began to speak, not with fear, but with quiet strength. "To those who hear my voice, I am not enemy. I am not danger. I am life like you. I seek shelter. I seek truth. I seek peace." She ended the message and looked out the window at the open sky. "Now we wait." Logan returned to the fire and stirred a pot of stew with careful hands. He poured 2 bowls and handed one to Aya. They ate in silence, the kind that no longer felt heavy. After the meal, Aya stood and stepped outside. She walked to the edge of the field where green grass pushed through the dirt. She knelt and placed her hand on the soil. "This world feels alive, it listens." Logan joined her and looked at the sky. "It has listened to many stories. This one will be better." They spent the next few days repairing the cabin, fixing broken panels, planting new seeds. Logan taught Aya how to use old farming tools while she showed him how to use salvage tech in new ways. Together, they made something stronger, something balanced, something that could last. One evening, as stars began to shine, a soft beep came from the scanner. Aya ran to it, her eyes wide, her hands trembling. The signal was soft but clear. A voice answered her call. "We hear you. We come with open hands. We bring no harm." Logan watched her face change, her fear replaced by wonder, her breath caught between joy and disbelief. She looked at him. "They heard me." He smiled and nodded. They did. Morning, a ship appeared in the sky, small and silver, moving slow and careful. It landed near the river beyond the trees. Logan and Aya stood together as the doors opened. 3 beings stepped out, not soldiers, not hunters, but travelers like her. They wore light suits, their faces open, their voices calm. They spoke her language. In full, not broken, not harsh. They welcomed her not as a target, but as a friend. Aya turned to Logan. "Come with me." Looked at the ship, then at his cabin, then back at her. "This is my place, my home." She reached for his hand. "I want you to see more, to live beyond this." Logan hesitated, then smiled. "Maybe one day." She nodded slowly, then stepped forward and hugged him, her arms around his shoulders, her body warm with life. "Thank you for seeing me, for saving me, for staying." Logan held her close, then let go. "Be safe, be free." She walked toward the ship and looked back once more, her eyes filled with something words could not hold. Then she stepped inside, and the ship rose into the sky. Logan stood alone, watching until the silver shape vanished beyond the clouds. Turned and walked back to the cabin where the fire still burned, the tools still waited, and the field still reached for the light. Aya had come into his life like a storm, like a spark, like a question with no answer. She had expected death when she fell into his trap, but what she found was something else. She found trust. She found a reason to hope again. And Logan found something too. He found meaning, not in silence, not in escape, but in connection. In the end, the trap did not catch an enemy. It caught a second chance. The end.